So what can you do if you've got an EC2 instance and you've lost the private keys to access it? Can you then access your instance install in any way? Well, fortunately, this is not as difficult as it sounds. I'm going to show you today what to do if you lose your keys. First of all, let's go to the EC2 console and launch a test instance. For those of you using Windows, when you get a PEM file, you'll need to use puttygen to create a PPK file. Now this first instance is running, I'm going to use putty just to connect to the instance. If you're using a Mac or you're on Linux, you won't need putty. You can do it straight from the command line, but for Windows users, you'll have to use this tool. So this is the instance where I'm going to lose the key. Just to prove that this is the same instance throughout, I'm going to create a small file, James's instance, and you can see that file is there. Okay, so now we're going to log out of this instance and get rid of the key. So the scenario is I've got an instance running and I've lost the key to access it. So what can I do to regain access to this instance? The very first step is to create a snapshot. So go to the snapshots menu and hit create snapshot. Select the volume of the instance, and here we'll just give the not very helpful name emergency snapshot, and this will just take a few seconds to create. Once the snapshot's ready, the next step is to create an AMI or ARMI or AMI depending on how you say it. Just right click the snapshot and hit create image. The important part here is to change the virtualization type from paravirtual to hardware assisted. If you don't change this, when we try to fire up the instance from this AMI, you'll find that there's no compatible instance types. Once you've changed that, just hit create. And over in the AMI's or ARMI's menu, you'll find that there's an emergency AMI that we've just created. From here, it's pretty straightforward. You just right click and click launch. Select the same instance type as we had when we first created the instance, and review and launch. Now the important part here is to create our new key pair because we've lost the first key pair. So I'm going to call this my second key and download this key, and then launch these instances, or this single instance. Once again, we'll have to use puttygen for Windows users to convert this second key into a compatible key. So over here we can see the second instance is now running. Let's take the IP address, and in putty we're going to use the second key that we just created. And you can see the file I created on the first instance is now here. So this is a clone of the first instance. So what did we do here? We had an instance that we set up with my first key. We lost that key. So we created a snapshot, then used that to create an image, and then used the image to create a new instance with a second key. And then we use putty to log into this instance with the second key. So it's not a total disaster if you lose the key to an instance. Obviously, you try not to. But the event that you do, the steps that you need to take to create a second key are not that complicated. There are a couple of things worth mentioning here. What's happened when you create the clone is you can still connect to the cloned instance using both keys, and that's because they exist in the authorized keys file. So let's take a quick look at that. if we just run nano on the file, you can see that this file has two entries, my second key and my first key. Since we've lost my first key, we can simply delete that from this file, just leaving the second key option there, and then save that. Now this second instance only has one key that's valid to make a connection, which is more secure. That's it for this quick video. Thanks for joining me, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.